Hello, welcome to Comparative Politics Lectures. We're looking at political economy in this series, okay? And let's start with what is political economy? So chapter 4 is telling you that politics and economics are related, okay? So basically, whenever you look at the economy, you can see there are political impacts or there's policy stuff happening. And whenever you look at politics or policies, you see that there are implications for the economy. And what does this mean? We'll look at it, okay? So social scientists found that one usually causes the other. And so we look at the subject of this relationship together in comparative politics. We call it political economy. Markets. So markets are a big part of the capitalist system, right? Whenever we talk about markets, we think that we're talking about a capitalist system. However, markets also exist in what are communist states today, such as China. They didn't always exist, but they were slowly reintroduced within the communist system. But before the communist system was established in China, it's been 70 years now that it's been established. Before that, they had markets. So markets have been, in all civilizations, and in fact, they are a very ancient practice. So they predate what we consider to be capitalism, and we'll talk about what is capitalism in a slide. Most times we think of markets as being a physical location to buy or sell goods, okay? Anytime buying and selling happens, we say that a market transaction has taken place. However, sometimes we see many retailers in one location, right? Like you go to the mall and you'll see many shops, right? They're selling their stuff together. Or you might walk into this big department store and see that many producers are selling through the department store, right? So those are all markets. These days, you also have digital markets, right? You can buy and sell online. And you also have very much older stock exchanges, and then you have other kinds of financial exchanges as well as commodity exchanges, and those are also digital. We also say that markets allocate resources. What are resources? We'll look at those things, okay? So let's look at the next slide about markets. So before you had money, and over here we're saying that for markets we need money. We'll go into what is money in a bit, okay? But you all know what money is, basically coins, cash, all of that, right? So if you don't have money, there was actually a time when people didn't have money in the way that we know it, okay? So no money existed, but people are producing all these goods, right? Now these farmers, these engineers, these builders, they all are producing either goods or services, but how do they exchange when you don't have money? Back in the day, people would have this system where they would take their excess product and try to find other people who were producing things and then go to their house and exchange the product, okay? Or they would meet at a physical location where everybody was bringing their surplus stuff, but they still had to find people that were willing to buy their stuff, okay? So it was a very difficult process. So society comes up with money, and we'll talk about money in a bit, in another slide actually. So after money is determined, what is money? People can use that to go and buy things from each other, okay? So let's look at the demand and supply curve very fast. What is it? What is it doing here? So many of you are familiar with these kinds of graphs, right? You know that what is plotted on the y-axis here is price. I'm showing it, and price is noted in dollars. It's just an example. And on the x-axis, you see it's called quantity. So imagine that you are buying quantity of apples, okay? If you're buying apples. And this is the demand and supply curve for apples, okay? So let's see. The supply curve represents the behavior of supplier. So if you go to the market and a person is selling goods to you, that guy is the supplier, right? We can also say he is the vendor or retailer. So his behavior is like this. Whenever the price is low, like 10, he's only willing to sell 1,000 apples, okay? But if the price would go up to 90, if somebody is willing to pay $90, then he's willing to sell 6,000 units of apples. So that's the behavior of the supplier. He wants to make more and more money, right? So he wants to make that profit. He doesn't want to sell at very low price. Now you go to the demand curve. Demand curve looks at the behavior of the consumer. So that if you're the buyer, that's your curve, okay? So you know that when the price is low for apples, you're willing to buy quite a bit. So you are actually at $10 willing to buy 6,000 units, right? Your behavior is just the opposite of the supplier. But when the price goes up to 90, you're willing to buy only 1,000. See? So that's why you know that when the price of something goes up, you don't want to buy that thing. So if the price is too high, you'll walk away. But at a middle price, you will both agree that it's a fair deal for both of you. So, okay, somewhere between around $50, you're willing to buy, say, about 3,500 units, okay? And everyone's happy at this price. So that's called the equilibrium price. It's basically the clearing price where both the demand and supply curve are meeting, but also this means that the consumer is happy, the supplier is happy. So let's look at the next curve. It's called, so in most societies, the price is established in this process. It's called bargaining. So basically, you go to the supplier and you tell him, well, how much are the price of apples? So he might say, I'm selling 1,000 by the 1,000 units at a time. And if you pay 90, I'm willing to sell you 6,000 units. But if you're willing to pay only $10, I'm only gonna sell you 1,000 units. And so the buyer is like, okay, it's not what I want. What I want is, more than 1,000 units. I need, say, about 3,000. And I'm willing to pay up to 50. So you're going to bargain with him. He's going to say 90, you're going to say 10, and you'll meet somewhere in the middle at some point, right? So that's when you have market allocating, or rather market clearing. So other kinds of markets exist. For example, in the West, we don't do the bargaining. When we go to the store, they just tell us a fixed price for each of this, right? They list it on their displays, and we just agree. If that's a high price for us, we walk away. If we like the price, we stay, right? And we buy the product. And in auction markets, what happens is the seller will, start the bid at a low price, and then many people will be willing to buy. But he will not sell it to the low price people, right? He wants to see what is the highest price he can get. So then he'll keep quoting higher and higher prices. When people stop bidding, then he'll know that's the price at which the sale has to happen. All right, so let's stop here and come back to the next slide in the next lecture.